trade that we haven't learned that. Here's the federal government story. We learned something, I think it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, that was disconcerting. The deficit is not going back down in 2011, it's going to be higher again. That's partly associated with the Obama-Republican compromise bill that came out in the lame duck session of Congress. But even that I can live with if I knew this was going to go down to zero. But we're talking about a federal deficit that never gets below $750 billion. That's just not tolerable. And that's going to create enormous havoc for the American economy down the road. And one of the things that is going to create a havoc has to do with what it means with the federal budget itself. It's almost like if you get on your computer and you're on Excel, and you put in the formula on Excel, and you've got one of these loops well, we got a loop here. We've got a situation where the federal government is borrowing money. Borrowing money is causing the debt to get higher and higher and higher. It's about $14 trillion now. That borrowed money is going to eventually cause interest rates to go up. And interest rates going up are going to do what to the burden of the debt? It's going to dramatically increase it. My golly, the Treasury's got a bargain today. They're selling us 3-year treasuries, or excuse me, 3-month treasuries that are earning less than 1/4%. It's costing right now the federal government almost nothing to borrow, but that won't last. And by the time you get interest rates just back to normal, the Fed's going to have to be dishing out $800 billion a year in interest payments alone. Another challenge, learning to live within our means. It's a challenge not just of the federal government, it's a challenge of the state and local government. The fact of the matter is that this is what happened to revenue. I wish I had the other graph with me. I don't have it with me, but I wish I could show you what had happened to state expenditures over the last 6-7 years. The problems that states have, Texas is facing a serious deficit. We have an enormous deficit. We have the potential to actually default the state of Illinois. And it wasn't just because revenues in the state of Illinois went down, but if you talk about increased government spending, it's been occurring much more rapidly at the state level. And so, once again, we've got some fiscal challenges. This is a challenge that is a reality today. This is a challenge because, thank goodness, states can't run deficits. So they got to balance the budget. So we don't have that to worry about, but what we have to worry about in the next 12 to 24 months is the states are going to be forced to move. There's a mentality in this country, rightly or wrongly, there's a mentality right now against taxes. Illinois took the gutsiest move that I could imagine and increased taxes substantially to become solvent. Many states are refusing to do that. Where I have a second home in Colorado, they refuse to do that. Though I must say, they refuse to do that. I say that somewhat in tongue in cheek. They haven't raised any taxes. They have raised more fees than you can possibly imagine. But they've slashed government spending. Every state in the union is losing government jobs today. And that will continue for the next 12, 24 months. And the state and local cash flow problems are just really, in some sense, the tip of the iceberg. One of the problems that the states have that hasn't got as much attention as the national government has is unfunded liabilities. You and I understand that Social Security isn't basically an unfunded liability, okay? But state and local governments have unfunded liabilities in spades. The federal government can print money. State and local governments can't. And some of the state and local governments in this country retirement retirement payments are going to probably have to be cut in half. That's going to be really painful. But of course, it's not just government that's over their head in debt. Americans are too. We've made progress. 2 years in a row, we've brought debt down. This is how much we brought debt down. Just a personal suggestion, and that is we've got a little bit further to go. Okay, yeah, that's progress, but that is not enough to get us to the point where our nostrils are above the waterline. So we've got work to do here as well. The savings rate has increased, not nearly as much as it should have. It got as high as almost 6% earlier this year. It's fallen back down to a little to below 5%, about 4.8%, I think is the latest number. That's a positive sign in that we've at least got some private sector. This is not savings. This is the consumer sentiment. I want to go to the savings rate. Oops, I don't have it here. Okay, we'll get there sometime soon. The reason why the confidence sentiment is low is obvious. The consumer still is struggling with their lifestyle and with their debt. That has implications for sales. You all know that November and December were pretty good years, pretty good months for sales in this country. Those sales are not, that pace of growth in retail sales is not likely to continue, even with job growth. Now, what I want to talk about now, and this is really kind of the last part of my discussion, is something that you probably don't understand. And it's really interesting because I'm saying that you don't understand it, it's not a personal jab at you, it's us as Americans in general. There is an interesting aspect of Americans' addiction to debt that we're not aware of in this country. And that has to do with international trade. You ought to be scratching your head right now. How can that be? I'd like to, and eventually I'd like to tell you that story. Part of the story that I've told you today is that the next year, maybe even the next 2 years, are going to get better, but we do have challenges down the road. And not only we have challenges, but so do other developed countries. Frankly, for all the scare that we've gotten out of Europe this year, with Greece, and then with Ireland, and Portugal and Spain, I like it. I like it because and they got riots in Greece. I like it. And soon they're going to have riots in Ireland, and the riots are going to die down. And why are those riots? Because finally these countries are doing what they need to do. What I'm worried about is, are we behind the curve? Are we not taking austerity measures that these countries have been forced upon? Most developed countries have done almost everything they possibly can do to get this painfully slow recovery going in terms of both fiscal policy and monetary policy. So what's left to do? And it was like there was this great revelation. This great revelation. There is a part of the economy that might save us still. And that's called exports. Every nation in the world is interested in expanding their exports. That's where they see their salvation. So how can they do that? Well, in the Great Depression, we took that attitude during the Great Depression. Not so much of increasing exports so much, but we took the approach that during the Great Depression we were going to eliminate imports, and it had to stimulate domestic production. And so we imposed enormous tariffs on foreign goods coming into the United States during the 1930s. And we did it with our heads in the sand. We did it as though no other country would do anything else about it. There was complete retaliation. Every other nation in the world retaliated against us, retaliated against each other. It was an absolute disaster. It was an economic disaster. It prolonged and worsened the Great Depression. Not only did it do that, in my opinion, it was the genesis of World War II. It guaranteed the power of the Nazis in Germany because of what had happened. It also was the primary problem between the United States and Japan. Now, Japan was engaged in expansionism. Their attack of Manchuria and so forth was something to be worried about. But the argument between the U.S. and Japan that led to World War II was over trade, over American protectionism. We can't allow ourselves to get caught in a world of protectionism that will pull the rug out of globalization that has great benefits for all of us. But since we're not allowed to do tariffs anymore because the World Trade Organization, the agreements that we entered going way back to Bretton Woods in 1944, don't allow us to put tariffs on trading partners or quotas, what can we do? And interestingly enough, two main world organizations that are in charge of monitoring world trade and the fairness of world trade have done very, very little to monitor and to punish currency manipulation. And that's the story that's getting headlines almost weekly, and it has been since early last fall. Issues with regards to China and Chinese forced devaluation of the yuan to make their exports cheaper. The game that they're playing is to try to make their exports cheap abroad and their imports expensive. So U.S. imports into China. We don't want to play that game, and we don't want to get engaged in punitive action because we've got to learn something more about trade that goes beyond just currency level. Here's how the story is unfolded in the last maybe 6 to 9 months. This has been going on for a dozen years. The U.S. has been pointing the finger at China, and they've been pegging the yuan to the dollar, and they've been manipulating the currency and keeping the Chinese goods arbitrarily cheap. And that's why when you go to Target today, I dare you to go to Target and find something made in America. You might never do it. I bet you it takes you at least 3 hours. China's been playing that game. We have been fighting it, but we need China for a variety of reasons. We need China to help keep North Korea under control and so forth. And so we have been very gentle with China, but we've been fighting. Interestingly enough, the game and the argument has expanded beyond China and the U.S. Latin America this fall got involved. Brazil because Brazil needs exports. What's driving the Brazilian economy is growing exports. They need exports, and they have been very vocal against both the Chinese, but interestingly enough, also against the U.S. Japan is under enormous pressure because of what China is doing to their currency. And Europe became incredibly agitated with us.